On April 2, 2011, 7 steel trucks pulled into one of New Delhi's iconic courts. In them was an 80,000-page-long charge sheet drawn up by India's Central Bureau of Investigation that implicated a cohort of high-ranking ministers, several government officials, and the who's who of India's business world in one of the biggest ghotala, or scams, the country had ever seen: the 2G spectrum allocation. It was said that this scam cost Indian taxpayers $24 billion, or 1.76 lakh crore rupees. To a nation coming out of a global recession, that was a lot of zeros. But here's the kicker. Despite extensive evidence and testimonies presented over 6 years and a long drawn-out court battle, no one was found guilty of robbing government coffers. This is the story of how India's rich and powerful got away with corruption and criminal conspiracy worth billions. This is the big steal. The subject matter of this brazen so-called scam that never happened is a very complex and technical topic and a story that spans over a decade. We've tried to capture elements of it. It's part of the reason why the perpetrators were able to pull it off right under everyone's noses. To even begin to wrap our heads around this, we need to back up a little. The year is 2007. The country is governed by the United Progressive Alliance, a coalition government consisting of the Indian National Congress along with a string of other regional but powerful political parties. All of 44 years old, A. Raja has just been appointed as a Communications and Information Technology Minister. A lawyer by qualification and a poet by passion, he is a leader of the DMK, a political party based in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu that was allied with the ruling coalition. At the time, India's telecom industry was already becoming one of the fastest growing markets in the world. Broadband internet and sites like Orkut, Facebook, and Google were quickly becoming household names in urban India. Access to wireless service for a bigger population could be a game changer. When the telecom ministry began issuing 2G licenses in 2008, that's when Raja allegedly started stacking up his house of cards. According to a report that the country's public exchequer released in 2010, Raja and his partners in crime supposedly threw protocol out the window while allocating spectrum or bandwidth, all in exchange for bribes. The key allegation was that the Department of Telecom issued 122 licenses at very cheap prices to applicants who had no experience in the telecom sector on a first-come, first-served basis. They went as far as to arbitrarily bring forward the cutoff date to favor firms like Unitech and Swan Telecom for corporate kickbacks, and even allegedly shut counters before time to physically block other telecom companies from applying. Companies who got the licenses also furthered the alleged fraud. Some of them even went ahead and resold the licenses without having met any of the rollout obligations. Unitech, for instance, bought 22 licenses from the telecom ministry for some $230 million and is accused of selling off a 60% stake to global telecommunications company Telenor Asia, making a thumping profit of 273%. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. In one instance, Raja awarded licenses to Swan Telecom, which turned out to be a front for the Reliance Group. The CBI charge sheet had alleged that Swan was actually a cover created by Reliance Telecom, a major telecom player. Not only that, senior officials within Reliance had created a web of shell companies in order to transfer bribes to companies controlled by senior leaders of A. Raja's political party. It was slowly becoming clear that at the center of all of this was A. Raja himself. According to investigators, A. Raja received close to 3,000 crore rupees, or almost $500 million as bribes to make all of this happen. For comparison, if that money were given to the Serum Institute of India today, it could manufacture 100 million doses per month of the Covishield vaccine. In September 2010, activists and citizens got wind of the scam and filed a petition before India's Supreme Court. How could the government have dealt with precious resources so callously? This set off a chain reaction. The court cancelled all 122 licenses issued by Raja's ministry. Entangled companies suffered colossal losses. The hit taken by telecom vendors was projected at $1 billion at the time. Based on one estimate, around 53.31 million phone connections got affected. To this day, banks are still grappling with bad loans. As for the scam itself, there's still a lot of debate about its true monetary value. India's public exchequer said that it would have earned between $7.8 to $24 billion had the spectrum been sold at the correct price. According to the CBI, the loss stood at $2.96 billion. But in the eyes of the leaders of the United Progressive Alliance, there were no losses at all. They insist the scam never happened, remember? In 2017, all 17 accused walked away unscathed. The public was outraged by the verdict, while the Congress Party and its allies felt vindicated. Despite the CBI's 80,000-page-long charge sheet, in the court's opinion, the prosecution had failed miserably in proving the charges against the accused. The judge noted that there was no evidence that A. Raja was the motherlode of conspiracy or had any involvement in wrongdoing. Raja is still a member of the Indian Parliament. It's because of layers upon layers of mismanagement and greed that the perpetrators of the 2G spectrum scam, executed at the highest echelons of Indian government, were allowed to escape with impunity. And because the nation had completely lost trust in the ruling government, the Congress Party was voted out in the 2014 elections.